Hey, I'm John Bohlinger, and I'm with Rob Turner. We are at the EMG factory. Rob, hey, thanks for having us, man.
Well, you're entirely welcome. Nice to have you here.
So this is a long way from the garage where this started.
It is.
In 1975.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
It's a long way. Yeah, it's taken a few years, though.
Yeah, right.
It's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess you're going to take us from boot to bonnet, take us through the whole process.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can see it. I mean, it's what it is these days. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, let's jump in.
This is a machine that inserts pins, connection pins, into the bobbins. The pins are really small, so it's kind of hard to load them by hand. And so we made this machine in order to be able to pick up a bobbin, put it in place, insert the pins, and
Boom, boom.
back into the tray.
There we go.
And then move on to the next tray. So we pretty much use pins for as many as we can. It makes building a lot easier. So now it's going to shift to the next tray.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So this is pretty much the heart of the operation. Coil winding. I don't know how many machines we have, but it's several, and we probably wind neighborhood of 3,000, 5,000 coils a day.
Wow.
Like that. That's a lot.
Okay, so when you first started, like in the garage,
A drill.
really
Yeah.
just
Just a drill mounted on one of those little Sears drill presses, the little hand one, little bench top thing.
how would you just guesstimate on the amount of lines?
Yeah, of course.
Huh.
But I'm just as an aside, I like to go to trade shows.
Yeah.
And in my early days, I would go to the electronics trade shows, and I met George Stevens, who is like the grandfather, the father of coil winding, and he has a book. And I said, well, I want to make guitar pickups, and he looked at me like, oh, you're another one of those guys. And I go, yeah, but I mean, I can't afford a winder. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, here's my book. And he gave me a copy of his book, and in it is a very simple cam-driven idler machine. And so I built one. And it's the basis of the winders that we use now, at least some of them. A lot of the machines are automated. Like this one is not, because we wind the same coil on it all day long.
Yeah.
Whereas if we have a programmable machine, we can sort of switch stuff around.
Yeah.
So we have a few programmable machines, and then we have some and they still run on the George Stevens sort of model.
Isn't that great?
And then we also build the winders here.
Huh.
Yeah, we build our own winders, because then we can wind 3 coils, 4 coils, 6 coils at a time.
People don't think about that. In production, you're not just producing something, you're producing the machines that make things.
Yeah, exactly.
God, it's way more complicated.
No, it's not. It's not complicated. It's a necessity.
Yeah.
You're trying to do business in California. You have to be productive.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it goes.
Okay, so it starts right here with these winders.
Yeah. So this is a typical stack winder, where we're winding both coils at the same time, and so you can see there's two feeds here, 2 here, 2 here. So we're going to wind 6 coils literally at the same time, and then they're sort of adjustable. I don't want to touch anything, but this also uses the George Stevens gearbox.
Huh.
So yeah, this machine it's a workhorse for sure.
Okay, so it looks like potting, wax involved.
Waxing. Yeah, every coil that gets wound gets waxed. The object is to remove the air, because basically if you build a pickup and you don't seal the coils, if you put it into a housing, you're basically creating a resonant chamber.
Yeah.
And so then you can tap on it, or you can talk it. It's kind of like a microphone, you can talk into it. So the intent is to remove the air. So you'll see in this process that we're removing all the air, displacing it with wax, and then the pickup will be built, and then it'll get encapsulated and we'll get to that later. Okay, so this machine here basically puts magnets and or plastic in place depending on the model that we're doing. So this is a fully loaded panel. This is basically just a spacer, a plastic spacer, and this is used for doing the 85. So we'll load that up with this guy, and then it'll go to the panel itself will go to the floor. And then there are some that are loaded up with magnets for 81s, for instance, and then 60s, 60A. So depending on the panel.
How do you tell? Are they color coded? I mean,
They're color coded. The plastic is color coded,
okay,
but also there's a
Oh,
production a number, and the date is on here.
Yeah. So how many pickups can you make a day?
Our capacity is 3,000.
Wow.
And but typically we don't build that many. We're in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 2,000 a day.
That's a lot of pickups.
So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that is great.
So this is the surface mount room, and this is where we do the electronic assembly. So this board here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 10 pickups on here. I believe this is so 35. Marty, is that what we're looking at? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so this has been stenciled up. I don't want to touch it because there's solder on it. If I do, it'll smear the solder. And then this will go into the surface mount machine, which is this guy over here. So it's picking up components and placing them. It's called a pick and place machine. This machine is more of what you would call a chip shooter than a full-blown surface mount machine. Marty just loaded this up, and this took about maybe 30 seconds.
Oh yeah.
At the most, But it's a really efficient way to load in components as opposed to having people hand loading components
couldn't imagine.
and everything else. Plus, everything is so small that it makes it that much easier for me to play around when I want to do a design.
Right.
Now this preamp happens to be on the inside of the pickup. We also do them where we put them on the back side, in case I want to do something in the with the whole entire surface of the inside of the pickup. So this guy is fully loaded. The components are stuck to it. You could do a double-sided board. You could actually take this, put it back in the machine, and put components on the other side. And then in this instance, it goes through the, I call this affectionately the pizza oven. And out of the pizza oven comes a finished board ready to go. We're in the assembly area now, and we have about 25 benches that we have assembly people at. Some of the stations are for strictly certain models. Other stations, anybody can build any model. Just depends on what the plan is for the day and what we need to get out the door. So here we see Freddie is filling each pickup with epoxy, and he'll do it 3 times. He'll do a one load, and then he'll come back and do another one. And the idea is to fill the pickup and remove all the air, and so that it doesn't feed back. That's the bottom line.
Wow.
So,
and do it without getting anything on the clip.
Oh yeah, everything has to be. Yeah, you get it on the clip and you're done. This is the mold shop. We do all our own mold making. We do have some molds made overseas, but we pretty much do everything here.
So does every pickup have its own mold, or can you double some up?
Well, there's typically in this mold there'll be 3 cavities,
Mm-hmm.
so there'll be 3 different parts that we can make. We'll sometimes do 2. It depends on the size of the part itself. The machine is capable of only pushing so much plastic into a mold.
Sure.
So you can't, fill up an entire compartment. But yeah, so we do any modifications here, or Lorenzo, who's our mold maker, will do whatever we want to do. We typically, when I design something, we will, once we release the product, we want to be able to produce it. And in order to do so, we need tooling.
Right.
And so we pretty much, once I settle on a design, we go to tooling. And we put everything in steel, no aluminum molds or prototype molds or anything like that.
So does a mold last forever?
These will, because they're made of hardened steel. We do use engineering materials. We use carbon fiber and we use glass-filled nylon. So they do have to be, if it's a cover cap,
Yeah.
the mold often will have to be reworked or refinished in order to, keep its look. But
So every pickup you've made has a mold somewhere.
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. We can go next door. You can take a look.
That's a lot.
We probably have 75 or 80 molds.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. But if you're going to make a product, typically, like I was telling you, in the music business, products tend to last for years.
Sure.
So you if you're going to commit.
Yeah.
Now we do have some molds that we don't run anymore because things didn't fly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these things happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to make pickups, you use a lot of plastic.
Yeah.
So we make all of our own bobbins. We make all of our own cover caps.
Wow.
Because we do a lot of short run, it makes it much easier if we try to go to a mold shop, somebody outside and say, well, I need 100 of this. They're like, nah, if you need 5,000, we're good.
Sure.
We're good to go. And so since we do short run, it just makes it that much easier for us to do ourselves.
Right.
This is an injection molding machine. It's electric. It's a Sumitomo. And Brian here is making H-caps. So he's actually installing the threaded inserts into the mold because they're so small, they're difficult to place with the machine. And so they have to be placed by hand. And it's about a, 30-second cycle time. And then and you got a cover cap.
Yeah. And they come out hot.
They come out hot. Yes, they
Wow.
are very hot. That's why you can see Brian's wearing gloves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
20 seconds ago, they were 550 degrees.
Wow. And they're oven
have it.
fresh. Yeah.
So after it comes out of potting, it's going to be tested again before it goes out the door, before it gets cleaned up and goes out the door. You can see she's doing a tap test on each of the magnets. First, she's going to do, this is the beginning of the test. So this is the resonance curve of the pickup itself.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's going to set it into a spot where she can tap on it and see that both coils have the right phase and that they're actually functioning. We do lose some units in potting, but it's pretty rare. So, and she's got a book that shows all the different resonances, and that's how it works. So it'll get tested, and then it'll go back onto a tray, and it'll go over and get cleaned up. Remove the fingerprints, and then also each pickup has a serial number attached to it, and it allows us to trace who built it, the date that it was built on, who it's being shipped to, basically we can track a pickup from around the world.
All right. So what are we doing here?
Well, this is a prepackaged Pickguard set. This just happens to be a VG20, which
Vince
is
Gill.
the Vince Gill model, yeah. And this is sort of getting ready to be loaded up. The ladies will install the controls and plug everything together. And so this is preset. All you got to do is remove your Pickguard, put this baby on, and you're ready to go.
I love how clean it is with the controls on the backside. I mean, it's just
Well, it's
The
a little up to date.
Yeah.
By industry standards. Yeah.
yeah.
And there's some electronics sort of attached to the board here. Each of the artists has their sort of preference for
Sure.
what electronics they want to put on it. Vince has an SPC and a tone control. He's more of a fat strat kind of guy, is what I would say. The DG20, the Gilmore model, has well, volume, and then EXG and SPC. And these are controls that if you turn them off, they have no effect. So they go into straight into bypass. And as you turn them up, the EXG gives you a low boost and a high boost, so a mid-cut more or less. And then the SPC is a broad sort of mid-boost. And the SPC was designed, it was designed for our foray with Fender back in the mid-'80s when they were thinking about buying us. We were developing for the Elite line. And the SPC, the idea was to take a single coil pickup and make it sound like a humbucker. And it actually, I mean, it works incredibly well.
Sure.
But we do these, we have a Vince Gill model.
Did Vince choose the tortoiseshell kind
Yes,
of?
that's his.
That
yeah,
seems like his thing.
exactly, yeah. What's interesting about it is these are S pickups. These have ceramic magnets in them,
Huh.
which is not typical at all. But it has a much sort of, I don't want to say bitier, but just simply a more distinct attack to it, as opposed to a Tele, or not a Tele, but an Alnico 5 or a Alnico 2 Strat. This is definitely much cleaner, you know. So I think he wants to start clean and then
Yeah.
get dirty. So we do the Vince Gill model. Like I said, we have a Luke model, Steve Lukather model, a Kirk Hammett model. Our most famous is the DG20, which is the David Gilmour model.
Right.
And David played that model from, I don't know, 85 until 2000 or so, when
Wow.
Fender came out with
Right.
sort of his line. We tried to get Fender to do a product with him, but they were more interested in doing the black Strat.
Sure.
Which is fine. I mean, you know, it's kind of the way it goes. So we have the Strat set. We also do a Tele set where everything's preloaded onto the control plate, and the pickups are all, you know, available with connectors on them, and all you have to do is connect the thing up, and,
Yeah.
and you're
Easy.
ready to go. And this is the latest, although I don't have the pickups here, but these are Fender JazzMaster pickups. It's our JMaster model. And
How
this
do the
is,
rollers look?
okay, so this is
Wow.
the set of electronics here. And this is the same electronic set that's in the David Gilmour model. It's an SPC on this control. This is an EXG. The SPC also, since it has the mid boost, you can boost it, but then there's the switch here on this side, and what it allows you to do is, instead of having just a mid boost, it can take you to a flat band boost and just give you even more.
Wow.
So, and then just straight volume and tone and output pickup selection. And
That-
this goes directly into any Fender JazzMaster copy, or, you know.
That makes so much sense, because the original, I mean, most people just don't
The
even-
original is very obscure.
Yeah.
You know, because the switch basically defeats these controls,
Right.
and then puts these two in charge, and
It's a
and-
redundancy that goes wrong all the time in the
Yeah,
original.
it's an interesting setup. So we decided we
that's
would.
a, that's a kind way to put
complimentary
it.
way to put it. And so you can see it all plugs together, even though you do receive it as a complete unit. You know, we still like to use connectors and stuff. It's just much easier from a production point of view.
Right, and there's so little to go wrong. Whereas, that's just clean.
Right. So it's a great system, and Fender guitars sort of lend themselves to easy replacement.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's why I thought the JazzMaster would be a good guitar. Ours is called the JMaster now.
Right.
Don't get confused. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, the Fender guitars tend to be very friendly.
Yeah.
Towards that sort of thing.
At this point, you've been through the whole thing, and now we're in shipping.
Shipping, packaging, shipping. Yeah. So everything will be cleaned up and prepped for shipping. A lot of product we ship to factories in Asia, Europe, and so it won't be actually retail packaged. You won't have a box with controls and all of that with
Sure.
it. And that's probably a good 40% of our business. And we also have, we have like Thomann and Sweetwater, all the major online retailers, and we have distributors throughout the world. So we do a lot of packaged product. and as you've seen with the DG20 and the the Vince Gill model and that sort of thing. And then so we'll ship to a bunch of distributors around the world in the States.
Wouldn't it be funny? I mean, we just started with the idea of I just want to make some cool pickups, and then it's all this.
Oh, it's a huge, luckily I don't treat it as a nightmare. I do say to people sometimes, welcome to my nightmare.
Yeah.
But I've grown very comfortable with it over a period of years. And so it doesn't really, I don't stress out about it.
Right. Well, and I mean, your heart.
I've got other people who stress out about it for me. So
right.
I don't have
You
to
can just think about R&D, and they can worry about this.
Yeah. Then when I hand them an R&D product, they're like, "Oh God, not more."
Yeah, right.
So after this, out the door it goes, and then you buy some.
Okay.
You put it on your guitar, and you're ready to fly.
I will.
No, we'll make sure you get something at a deep discount.
Okay, even better. Rob, this has been great, man. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for coming, man.
Oh,
This is killer.
What a pleasure.
Good.
Right, y'all. Till next time.
Thanks, kids.